The manila envelope sat on my kitchen counter like a ticking bomb. No return address, just my name, Felicity Harper, written in careful block letters. My hands trembled as I pulled out a stack of glossy photographs, each one hitting me like a physical blow. My husband, Ethan, looking relaxed and happy at what appeared to be a seaside restaurant. Ethan walking hand in hand with a stunning blonde through a park. Ethan kissing her outside what looked like an apartment building. The timestamps showed these weren't old photos, they were from last week. "Mommy, can I have more juice?" Oliver's voice snapped me back to reality. I quickly shoved the photos back into the envelope, forcing a smile from my 7-year-old son. "Of course, sweetie." I poured him another glass of apple juice, watching him happily return to his dinosaur coloring book. He looked so much like his father. Same dark curls, same dimpled smile. The sight made my stomach clench. I grabbed my phone and texted my best friend Emily, "Need to talk." "Emergency. Can you meet?" Her response came instantly. "Wine emergency or coffee emergency?" "Both. Definitely both." I spent the next hour going through the motions of our normal Saturday morning routine, making pancakes for Oliver while my mind raced. Who sent the photos? Why now? And most importantly, what was I going to do about them? Ethan called around noon, his voice cheerful as always. "Hey hon, running late at the office again. Don't wait up for dinner." The office. I kept my voice neutral, though my free hand clenched into a fist. "On a Saturday? Big presentation Monday. You know how it is." He paused. "Everything okay? You sound weird." "Everything's fine," I lied, watching Oliver arrange his toy dinosaurs in careful rows. "Just tired. Get some rest then." "Love you." "Love you too." I responded automatically, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. After hanging up, I stared at my phone, remembering how we met at the library where I worked, how he pursued me with flowers and sweet notes, how he promised forever at our wedding 5 years ago. Now here I was, holding proof that it had all been a lie. My mother's voice echoed in my head. "Men like Ethan don't change, sweetheart. They just get better at hiding who they really are." I should have listened. But what I needed now wasn't hindsight. It was a plan. And as I watched Oliver playing innocently with his toys, completely unaware that his world was about to change, I knew one thing for certain. Ethan Montgomery was going to regret the day he decided to break our family apart. Emily's cozy kitchen felt like a sanctuary as I spread the photos across her granite countertop. She studied each one, her face growing darker with every image. "That absolute bastard," she muttered, reaching for the bottle of wine. "And you're sure these aren't doctored?" "I called the restaurant in the first photo," I said, accepting a very full glass. "They confirmed he's been there several times in the past month. Always with a blonde woman. Have you told your mother yet?" I winced. "God, no. You know how Margaret gets. She'll march straight over to confront him herself." As if summoned by her name, my phone lit up with my mother's caller ID. I let it go to voicemail, but seconds later it buzzed with a text. "Saw Ethan's car at that new bistro downtown. With company. Call me now." "Speak of the devil," Emily said, reading over my shoulder. "You know she won't let this go." She was right. My mother had never fully approved of Ethan, always saying he was too smooth by half. The thought of her smugness made me want to scream. "I need proof," I said, more to myself than Emily. "Something concrete. These photos could be explained away. Work meetings, friendly lunches. I need to catch him in the act. Or," Emily suggested carefully, "you could just ask him directly." I laughed, but it came out hollow. Right. Because Ethan's so well known for his honesty. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Ethan, running by the office to pick up some files. "Be home by 8. Emily's eyebrows shot up. "It's Sunday." "Exactly." I stood up, suddenly energized. "The office is closed on Sundays." "He's lying." "Felicity." Emily's voice held a warning. "What are you thinking?" "I'm thinking it's time to see what kind of work my husband does on weekends." I grabbed my purse. My hands steady for the first time since finding those photos. "Can you watch Oliver for a couple hours?" "Of course, but..." She caught my arm. "Just be careful. And remember, whatever you find out, Oliver needs you to keep it together." The mention of my son nearly broke my resolve. This morning, he'd asked when Daddy was coming home for dinner, his little face so trusting and innocent. The thought of that trust being shattered made my chest ache. But as I drove toward Ethan's office building, another thought kept circling. Better to break that trust now than let Oliver grow up believing lies. I learned that lesson the hard way with my own father's infidelity. History wasn't going to repeat itself, not if I could help it. I parked across from Ethan's building, killed the engine, and waited. Whatever truth I was about to discover, there would be no going back. I didn't have to wait long. Ethan's silver BMW pulled into the parking lot 20 minutes later, but he didn't head for the office building. Instead, he drove straight through to the upscale apartment complex behind it. I watched him punch in a gate code like he'd done it 100 times before. My hands shook as I followed on foot, slipping through the gate before it closed. The evening air felt thick and heavy, matching the weight in my chest. Through the lobby windows, I saw Ethan step into the elevator, carrying what looked like takeout bags. I couldn't follow him up without access, so I circled the building, counting windows, trying to spot movement. On the 4th floor, lights flicked on in a corner unit. A woman's silhouette appeared, tall, slim, younger than me. She embraced Ethan, and then a small boy ran into view, throwing his arms around Ethan's legs. The sight hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just an affair. This was a whole other life. My phone buzzed. Emily checking in. "You okay?" I couldn't respond. Through the window, I watched Ethan lift the little boy onto his shoulders, the same way he did with Oliver. They looked like a perfect family tableau, framed by warm light and domestic comfort. A security guard appeared beside me. "Ma'am? Is everything all right?" "I'm fine," I managed, but my voice cracked. "Just getting some air." "This is private property," he said kindly. "I'll need to ask you to leave." I nodded, backing away. As I turned to go, I heard a child's laughter floating down from above, bright, innocent, completely unaware of the devastation unfolding below. Back in my car, I sat perfectly still, letting the truth sink in. Ethan hadn't just betrayed me. He'd built an entire parallel life. How long had this been going on? Did that little boy think of Ethan as his father? Did Oliver have a half-sibling I didn't know about? My phone buzzed again. "Ethan, working late. Don't wait up." Something snapped inside me. I started the car and drove home, my mind crystallizing around a single thought. No more waiting, no more wondering, no more lies. I pulled into our driveway just as Emily was leaving with Oliver. "Sleep over at Aunt Emily's," he called excitedly. Emily caught my eye, reading my expression. "Take all the time you need," she whispered. "We've got ice cream and movies planned." I hugged Oliver tight, breathing in his familiar scent. "Have fun, sweetheart. Mommy loves you." Then I went inside to wait for my husband, the carefully crafted speech I'd prepared dissolving into something raw, darker. Let him come home to his perfect house, his perfect lie. I had something better than revenge planned. I had the truth. The front door opened at midnight. I sat in the dark living room. The photos spread across the coffee table like tarot cards predicting our future. Ethan flicked on the lights and froze. "Jesus, Felicity. You scared me." His smile faltered when he saw my face. "What's wrong? Where's Oliver?" "With Emily." I gestured to the photos. "Why don't you tell me about Noah?" The color drained from his face. For once, his smooth facade cracked. "How did you? Does it matter? What matters is you've been playing daddy to another woman's child while barely showing up for your own son." He ran his hands through his hair, a nervous habit I used to find endearing. "It's complicated. Actually, it's very simple." I stood up, surprised by how steady my voice was. "How long?" 8 months. He slumped onto the couch. "Jenna. She needed someone. Noah's father isn't in the picture. And you just couldn't resist playing hero?" The bitterness in my laugh surprised even me. "While your own son waits up every night, wondering why daddy's missing dinner again?" "I was going to tell you." "When?" "After Noah started calling you dad? After you moved in with them. I picked up a photo of them at the park. You look happy there. Happier than you've been here in a long time." "That's not fair." "Fair." My voice cracked. "Fair would be coming home to your wife and son. Fair would be not building a whole secret life behind our backs. Fair would be..." My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "We need to talk." "Jenna." Ethan's face changed when he saw the message. Don't. Don't what? Talk to the other woman in your life? Afraid we might compare notes. He grabbed my arm. You don't understand. There are things. I inked away. Let me guess, it's complicated? Yes. Damn it, Felicity. Not everything is black and white. No, I said quietly, but some things are. Like the fact that I'm done. Done with the lies. Done with the excuses. Done with watching Oliver's heart break every time you disappoint him. You can't take my son. Watch me. I headed for the stairs. I'm packing some things. Oliver and I will stay with my mother until I figure out next steps. Please, his voice cracked. We can work this out. I paused on the stairs, thinking of that little boy running to hug Ethan. You know what's funny? I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just tired. Tired of competing with your other family. Tired of pretending everything's okay. As I climbed the stairs, my phone buzzed again. Jenna, there's something you need to know about Ethan. Something worse than the affair. I closed my bedroom door, hands shaking as I typed back. When and where? The coffee shop was quiet at 7 a.m. I spotted Jenna immediately. Younger, prettier, exactly as I'd imagined. She clutched her cup like a shield, dark circles under her eyes matching mine. Thank you for meeting me, she said softly. I know this is uncomfortable. I sat down, noting how she angled herself toward the exit. You said there was something worse than the affair. She glanced around before sliding a manila envelope across the table, similar to the one that had started this whole nightmare. I found these in Ethan's home office last week. Inside were bank statements, property deeds, and what looked like offshore account information. My hands trembled as I read the numbers. This can't be right. He's been embezzling from his company, Jenna said. For years. The affair. That was just the tip of the iceberg. A barista dropped a cup nearby, making us both jump. I thought of all those late nights at the office, the mysterious business trips, the way Ethan always handled our finances. Does anyone else know? The company's starting an audit next month. He doesn't know yet. She leaned forward. Felicity, he's been using both our names on documents. We could both be implicated. My phone buzzed, a text from Oliver at my mother's house. When are you coming home, Mommy? The simple question hit me like a punch to the gut. Home? What home? Everything I thought I knew was built on lies. Why are you telling me this? I asked Jenna. Because I have Noah to think about. Her voice cracked. And you have Oliver. We need to protect our boys. The bell above the door chimed. We both turned to see Ethan walking in, his face dark with anger. Well, isn't this cozy? How did you? Jenna started. Find you. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I put a tracker on your car weeks ago, Jenna. Trust issues, you understand. I quickly slid the envelope into my bag. We were just leaving. No, he said, sitting down uninvited. I think we all need to have a little chat about loyalty. And about what happens to people who can't keep secrets. The threat in his voice was unmistakable. I thought of Oliver waiting at my mother's, of Noah who was probably at school right now, of the evidence in my bag that could send their fathers to prison. Jenna caught my eye across the table. In that moment, something shifted between us. No longer rivals, but allies against a common enemy. The question was, what were we willing to do to protect our children from the man we both thought we knew? The elementary school hallway felt suffocating as I hurried toward Oliver's classroom. I was already 10 minutes late for the parent-teacher conference, another thing to add to my growing list of failures. Rounding the corner, I stopped dead. Ethan was already there with Jenna. What are you doing here? I hissed, noticing how they both stiffened at my approach. I'm still his father, Ethan said smoothly. And Jenna's part of our lives now. Better get used to it. Before I could respond, Oliver's teacher, Miss Chen, opened her door. Mr. and Mrs. Montgomery? And Miss Lawson, Jenna supplied quietly. The next 15 minutes were excruciating. Miss Chen talked about Oliver's withdrawal in class, his emotional outbursts, his falling grades. Each word felt like an indictment of my failures as a mother. He drew this during art therapy, Miss Chen said, sliding a paper across her desk. The crayon drawing showed 3 separate houses, one with Oliver and me, one with Ethan and Jenna, and one crossed out with angry black scribbles. He's just sensitive, Ethan said dismissively. Maybe if he spent more time with me. More time. I couldn't hold back anymore. You barely saw him when we lived together. Now you're playing happy families with. At least I can provide stability, Ethan cut in. A proper home. Unlike someone living in a borrowed apartment, working part-time at a library. That's enough, Miss Chin intervened, but the damage was done. I saw Jenna's face flush with shame. She knew as well as I did what kind of stability Ethan's money really bought. The meeting ended awkwardly. In the hallway, I spotted Oliver waiting on a bench, shoulders hunched, looking so small. He brightened when he saw us, then immediately dimmed, sensing the tension. "Ready for our weekend, champ?" Ethan asked, reaching for him. Oliver stepped back, closer to me. "I don't want to go." "Oliver," Ethan's voice hardened. "We talked about this. You're coming with me and Jenna." "No," Oliver shouted, tears starting. "I want to stay with Mom." Other parents were staring now. Ethan grabbed Oliver's arm, too roughly. "Stop making a scene. Let him go." Jenna and I spoke simultaneously. Ethan's face darkened. "You two think you're so clever, conspiring together? Well, my lawyers will have something to say about that. About everything." He stormed off, leaving Oliver crying in my arms while Jenna stood awkwardly aside. Through the classroom window, I could see Miss Chen on the phone, probably calling the principal. Or worse, child services. I held Oliver tighter, feeling his small body shake with sobs, knowing this was just the beginning of Ethan's revenge. The evidence in my bag felt like it was burning a hole through everything. My conscience, my future. My chance at protecting my son from the truth about his father. The police station's fluorescent lights made everything feel surreal. I sat across from Detective Martinez, the manila envelope of evidence spread between us, while Jenna's voice shook as she gave her statement in the next room. "Mrs. Montgomery." "Harper," I corrected automatically. "I'm going back to Harper." "Miss Harper," he amended. "These documents show years of systematic fraud. Your husband, ex-husband, could face serious time, but we need to know your involvement." Before I could respond, commotion erupted in the hallway. Ethan's voice boomed through the station. "Where are they? Where's my wife?" He burst in, flanked by two officers trying to restrain him. His usually perfect appearance was disheveled, his eyes wild. "You treacherous bitch. Both of you." "Mr. Montgomery," Detective Martinez stood. "You need to? You think you've won?" Ethan snarled at me. "I've already transferred everything offshore. You'll get nothing. Oliver will get nothing." The mention of our son's name snapped something inside me. I stood slowly, feeling oddly calm. "You're wrong, Ethan. I don't want your money. I never did." "Then what?" He laughed bitterly. "Revenge. Justice." I slid another envelope across the table. "These aren't copies of your financial records. They're Oliver's therapy drawings. His teacher's reports. The proof of what your lies have done to our son." Ethan's face changed as he looked at the pictures. Oliver's dark, angry scribbles, his torn-apart family drawings. For the first time, I saw his mask crack completely. "I saved the real financial evidence for the SEC," Jenna said from the doorway. Noah clutched against her hip. "They're very interested in your creative accounting." "You..." Ethan lunged toward her, but the officers grabbed him. "You want to know why we're both here?" I asked quietly. "Because while you were building your house of lies, we were watching our children suffer. That ends today." As they led Ethan away, his threats echoing down the hallway, Jenna touched my arm. "Oliver and Noah are at the park with Emily. Should we?" I nodded, gathering the drawings. "Let's go get our boys." Detective Martinez called after us. "We'll need you both to testify." "We'll be ready," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. "But right now, our children need us." Walking out into the sunlight, I felt lighter than I had in months. Revenge might have started this journey, but something else had ended it. The truth, finally set free. And the unexpected alliance of two women who'd found strength in protecting their children instead of destroying their shared enemy. 6 months later, I sat on a park bench watching Oliver and Noah chase each other around the playground. Their laughter carried across the autumn air, a sound I'd once feared I might never hear again. "Sometimes I still can't believe it," Jenna said, handing me a coffee. The trial, the sentencing, everything. 5 years, I murmured. Seems both too much and not enough. We'd developed an unexpected routine. Saturday mornings at the park, coffee and conversation while our boys played. The media circus around Ethan's conviction had finally died down, leaving us to piece together our new normal. Oliver's therapist says he's making progress, I said, watching my son help Noah climb the monkey bars. The nightmares are less frequent. Noah asked about him yesterday, Jenna admitted. About Ethan. I didn't know what to say. A familiar envelope appeared from her bag. Not manila this time, but prison stationery. This came yesterday. I thought you should see it. I hesitated, remembering the last letter, Ethan's desperate attempts to manipulate us into changing our testimony. But this one was different. The handwriting was shaky, vulnerable. He's finally telling the truth, Jenna said softly. About everything. His father's gambling debts, the pressure to maintain appearances, how it all spiraled. Does it matter anymore? Maybe not to us. But someday, when the boys are older. Oliver's shout interrupted us. He'd scraped his knee. I started to get up, but he was already handling it, showing Noah his Batman Band-Aid with pride. My son was growing stronger, more resilient. We all were. Emily joined us right on schedule. Ready for the big move tomorrow? I nodded. The little apartment had served its purpose, but the new house, with its garden and spare room for my library books, felt like a real fresh start. Jenna and Noah would be just 3 blocks away. Mom's already planning the housewarming, I said, rolling my eyes. She says she was right about Ethan all along. Mothers usually are, Emily laughed. A notification pinged on my phone, another news alert about Ethan's case. I dismissed it without reading. We'd chosen truth over revenge, protection over destruction. The justice system had handled the rest. Ice cream, Oliver called, Noah echoing him excitedly. 5 more minutes. Jenna and I responded in unison, sharing a knowing smile. The autumn sun warmed my face as I watched our boys play, their shadows stretching long across the grass. Sometimes the family you choose, the one you build from the ashes of betrayal, becomes stronger than the one that broke. And sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's finding peace in the aftermath of the storm.